Good morning to everyone and welcome to this online talk in the framework of Blutopia Forum Mediterraneo. Today's talk will concern climate change and insurance challenges, so what to expect. I have the real pleasure to have as guest today Mr. Rocco Bozzelli. Welcome, Rocco, and first of all, thank you for the time you are spending with us today and to share your knowledge in this respect. I will immediately introduce yourself, first of all. Since 2021, you are the head of the global insurance at MSC Cruises, providing control, coordination, and advisory assistance for any insurance cover placed within MSC Group on a global basis. You have a long international career. You've been working in Switzerland, France, Italy, Belgium, and Monaco at least. With significant expertise in shipping brokerage, marine insurance, and P&I underwriting, broking, consulting, and risk and insurance management for shipping companies. You are also board member of the North of England P&I Club, which is now called North Standard P&I Club. This since May 2022. Correct. And you are also member of the Swiss and Italian Risk and Insurance Managers Associations. And on top of this, I used to give lectures, and you intervene in conferences. And if I well understood, you are also starting to contribute in a master in Milan, of course. Yep. Always in the insurance field. So welcome again. Thank you to give the possibility to benefit of your knowledge. As I anticipated at the beginning, we will discuss this topic is climate change, but analyzed through the lens of insurance. And I think that nobody like you can really help us to try to analyze such an important topic for this peculiar and important lens. We all know, of course, as how the impact of climate change on a global basis is a top priority in the world. We know how shipping in general, as one of major industries, of course, contributes in terms of greenhouse gases emissions. Data say to us that more or less the contribution is in terms of 2-3%. And so as the shipping community was sort of big country, let's say, in the world. And we also know that for these reasons, there is a strong engagement also at the IMO level, so International Maritime Organization level, to contribute to reduce as much as possible and possibly abolish the emission, having as horizon the 2050 net zero goal. So why we are talking about climate change also under insurance point of view? Because as you were, in our preliminary exchanges, we have been mentioning how actually climate warming is also a financial risk. Among the many impacts of climate change at the physical, biological, human, economic level, social level, human rights level, and so on, we also have the insurance challenge. And so I would take it really from there. So to understand a bit more why you consider climate warming as a financial risk. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much for the great introduction. It's a pleasure to spend a bit of time with you and to share some views about this very, very hot topic, which is climate change, climate-related risks, and of course, linked to that, decarbonization and ESG. Climate warming is indeed a financial risk. It is a financial risk that has a serious impact on P&L and cash flow of companies. If we look few data that we can easily see online, since 1980, each decade is warmer than the previous one. June 23 this year was the hottest on global basis June month ever. July this year was the hottest since 1980. And if we look at the number of climate-related disasters and we compare 2000 to 2019 to 1980, 1999, we have double amount of climate-related disasters. So it's clear that that climate risk is a priority at the moment, and it's clear that there's an impact on the P&L, and it's indeed a financial risk. How to address this financial risk? Of course, one of the tools it's absolutely the risk transfer exercise that we can do with insurance companies and with our insurers. So for sure, it's a risk that needs to be faced, and it's a risk that can be addressed also to insurers. What of course creates somehow a discrepancy between insurers and assured, it's sometimes the lack of data and analytics. So data and analytics are critical to insurers to be able to assess and address those risks. So climate warming, it's indeed something that we need to address and in order to minimize the potential impact and particularly the financial impact on our business. Of course, this is going to affect also the shipping and marine insurance scenario. So somehow we have an increased exposure. Insurers, they normally reason when they assess and address risk in experience and exposure. So what has been done so far in terms of claims numbers, and what is the exposure? And if we see climate risk, but we can make also a parallel with cyber risk, there are now emerging new risks or totally different risks compared to 10, 20, 30 years ago. So the exposure element is now somehow more important than the experience, just because we have different risks for the insurers. So it's key that data are available and shared with the insurers in order to address those risks. So for sure, also for shipping, we may face climate-related risk. And the question is also, is there enough capacity available in the insurance and reinsurance market, not only in marine insurance and shipping, but also in property insurance to address those risks? So that's a bit how I see that. For sure, insurers, in my opinion, struggled a bit to keep the pace of evolution in terms of risk exposure, and also the pace of evolution in terms of technology of the assured. But I really believe that insurers will be, and they are already, a key part to address those risks and to help not only companies, but also on governmental level to address those climate risks that are affecting all of us. To name one, yeah. Please.
Sorry. So sorry to interrupt. So the precondition is really, I mean, the first need you're addressing is really the importance of the data sharing due to this change of balance between experience and exposure, right? This is the first key point. And in terms of possible responses, of course, this belongs to the future, but I'm sure that experts like you and insurance and insurers and brokers are studying possible products to face these risks.
Yeah, let's say that there are multiple, let's say, dynamics in terms of new products. One example is parametric insurance. Yes. Parametric insurance is not a new concept because it started in the past on crop insurance in the agricultural business. It even started on delay insurance in the airlines business. But basically, the parametric insurance cuts completely the claim adjustment process. So basically, assured and insurers, they decide what we call oracle, or a data collector, which is trusted by both parties. And if the event happens, basically, there's an immediate payment without even presenting the claim to the insurers. So for nat cat type of exposures, like hurricanes, earthquakes, we see that there's a tendency to move also on those parametric solutions for few reasons. For sure, one reason is the possibility to have a very fast cash flow back to assured after a major event happens. So avoiding maybe a long claims handling process with insurers and loss adjusters. And also because it's very much data driven. So there are no gray areas. And basically, if the event happens and it's within the parameters that you agreed, there's a payment to the assured. It's also a different capacity, which is available in the market. So the usual, let's say, property business insurance and reinsurance available capacity is separate from parametric insurance available capacity. So I think this is one of the ways that we've seen to address climate change related risks. There's not a lot of capacity available. There are players that are investing in this area, but I think it's an interesting one. The other one to me, it's also the cultural element of the assured. So investing more in loss prevention, investing more in risk retention. So also through captives tools, so insurance captives or insurance captives of the assured. So there are multiple ways that I've seen at the moment to address those risks. For sure, parametric is an interesting one for the reason I've just mentioned.
Thank you for this overview. Let's try to go a bit more into details in relation to the marine and the shipping insurance challenges. As you were saying at the beginning of this talk, the shipping community and the industry is called to reduce and let's say abolish and eliminate as much as possible, at least the emissions. And so for these reasons, I mean, in this perspective, there are since years, and still there are, and more and more will be research and development programs in terms of possibility to use new fuels. Now we know that we have sort of categories: transitory fuels and let's say the future green fuels, and but also in terms of new technologies. If we think about the new forms of propulsions of vessels, and if we think about the new designs of vessels or the electric and wind powered assist vessels. I mean, these are just examples to say how there is a continuous ongoing research in this respect, and there will be new prototypes. Now, prototypes which represent an uncertainty for insurers, which is a huge challenge. Can you just share a few views on this in terms of challenges regarding the adoption of new prototypes, in terms of new technologies, but also working practices, actually, not only technologies?
Yeah, no, Andrea, I think that we are now in a phase, a transitional phase of the sustainability revolution. So somehow it's an industrial revolution that we are seeing at the moment. And in this transitional phase, of course, in shipping, we are doing as much as possible to reduce emissions and to decarbonize. That brings a number of different projects in terms of new fuels, new prototypes, which are completely new risks, as you said, for the insurers. And here I see really the challenge, which is on both sides. On the insured side, on the insurer side, sorry, they are not used to insure prototypes, for example. So 1 decade ago, I used to write yachts, and when I had a risk which was a carbon fiber one-off yacht, was normally the risk very difficult to place and to accept, because we had no experience and claim-related experience to that particular prototype. But there, I think we really required extra mile from the insurance industry, and they need to change completely approach. And since we are all on board, and I think we should only agree to the fact that decarbonization is a target for everybody, so also the insurance industry should now support the assured and somehow consider how to assist them in their risk exposure when we talk about prototypes. So from the insurance industry, I really believe on the marine insurance side that they need to speed up a bit and adapt their underwriting practices to what's going on in terms of prototypes and new fuels and new practices, as you said. On the other hand, what insurers tend to say, okay, but I need that data are shared to us for a better assessment of the exposure. And somehow, it's also a tricky point, because many shipping companies or ship owners maybe are not willing to share completely the technology or the new technology they're investing at the moment in total transparency. But I think that data sharing and communication is needed to achieve this target of basically reaching the possibility to have also prototypes, new fuels and new operations covered by Halle machinery insurers in particular. Yeah.
No, but I mean, again, the precondition is really data sharing. Otherwise, every initiative at any level really risks to remain frustrated. If you also think about, for instance, the Poseidon principle for marine insurance, I mean, also that kind of initiative, which, if you wish, maybe you can spend a few words on that, as a precondition, the sharing of data. Otherwise, it starts to be complicated to establish, as expected, a global baseline to assess and disclose whether financial institutions, let's say, lending portfolios are aligned with the climate goals. No.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you mentioned the Poseidon principle for marine insurance, which is an initiative which started from a number of major insurance players like Swiss Re, SCOR, Norwegian Club, Guard, not to name someone, and also some very important marine insurance specialized brokers. So the idea of the Poseidon principle of marine insurance is basically to enable insurers to assess and disclose their book of business with responsible environmental impacts. And basically to support a better future for shipping industry and society. What I really miss there, it's really okay, but what is going to be the strategy of those insurers? Because to me, it's not yet fully clear if the insurers are going to then, let's say, promote or write only sustainable business and basically avoid risks that are not sustainable, or are they going increasing the rating for non-sustainable initiatives, and they're going maybe to decrease premium for people who invested a lot in this. It's also true that different sectors have different entry barriers in terms of decarbonization. So to me, it's very interesting to see how insurers will address this, because in a transitional phase, you have easy access to decarbonization for certain industry. Shipping is probably in Peer 2, so there are certain costs in R&D and financial cost, of course, to be made, and not all players are major big players. So the big question to me, it's okay, we are all in agreement that we need to have a more sustainable business, but what will be the position of insurers in respect of, let's say, small mid players that maybe they cannot invest as the large players?
Sure.
But I think the initiative is a great initiative because it aligns all the insurance stakeholders in a single way and with a global view at the end to embrace the decarbonization target that International Maritime Organization announced.
Clear. I mean, we are coming to an end. We still have a couple of minutes left. We'll see, depending on the level of players and developments in terms of data collection and in terms of research and development, how things will develop. Anyhow, seems to me that I mean, the role of the risk manager will be crucial. I mean, at least in this respect. So good
I
luck.
think that also the pandemic accelerated a lot the risk management culture in many companies or in certain areas of the world where maybe insurance was seen as a cost and not as strategic risk management tool. So I think that the role of the risk managers and the insurance manager will be central to drive this change and to basically prevent, minimize, and avoid those new risks. For sure, I see more and more interest on the boardrooms to have specialized risk and insurance managers to address those challenges, which are at the end a financial risk for the company, which needs to be addressed. Of course, also, I think that looking on a larger picture, public and private partnerships will be also very important to address climate change risks. So we've seen, being myself Italian, we've seen how we are subject in Italy to earthquake risks, but at the end, not many people are insured on earthquake risks. And the state, of course, tried to support and to help in those situations, but probably it was not optimal. So maybe also public-private partnership to assess nat cat types of risk like earthquake in areas which are risky can be also a new way to basically address those risks together with the insurance industry.
No, surely, depending on the kind of risk we're talking about, the public intervention might be of essence, and as well as a possible public-private partnership. I mean, it's there are so many different kinds of risks that, of course, in some cases we can expect responses from the private side, the public side, or both. Both public and private partnership side. But it's just to give you, just to share the complexity of a picture where there is definitely an intersection of different levels, namely political, legal, insurance, economic, operational. So, but as you were rightly saying, we are all on the same boat. So, in some way, we'll see which will be the responses to this. It depends also on countries or on a regional basis. It's also a question of culture, because as you were saying, not all populations have the same kind of culture, depending from the fact that it's better one or the other kind of approach. But just say that definitely there is a certain variety, culturally speaking, of way of being used to address some issues. So,
Andrea, let me say something, because as a risk and insurance manager, I tend to be a very pessimistic person. As default, just to say, to see always the worst case scenarios. In private life, I'm a very optimistic person. At the end, I have to be also on the business side, because crisis and weather change and new risks are bringing also a number of huge opportunities. So I think it's also a timing that will stimulate innovation and also innovation on the risk and insurance management business as well. So I think that from each crisis we can learn, improve, and I want to be also positive in the message. Although who does same job as me knows that we need to be often very pessimistic and to analyze always worst case scenarios. But I think that this will bring also opportunities and innovation.
Seems to be a great way to close our talk. Thank you again for your time and for having shared with us your experience and knowledge. Whenever you want and you wish, doors are open to share some more knowledge on this topic. And in the meantime, I really wish you a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and a good day to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.